What's going on, Celtics family? Welcome back to Celtics Daily Hub. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell because we drop fresh Celtics content every single day. And today is a loaded episode. We've got a contract extension that's already got the fan base split, a Bradley Beal rumor that just won't die, a deep dive on what Payton Pritchard's next contract should look like, and then, saving the biggest bombshell for last, LeBron James just made a decision that changes the entire Eastern Conference, and it directly affects the Boston Celtics. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, because we're breaking down all of it. Let's get into it. Celtics extend Jordan Walsh, and the Bradley Beal rumors are heating up. Let's start with news that dropped straight from the front office. The Boston Celtics have officially locked up forward Jordan Walsh on a new 3-year contract extension worth right around $15 to $16 million. Now here's the structure, because it's actually pretty clever business from Brad Stevens and this front office. Boston had already exercised Walsh's $2.4 million team option for the 2026 to 27 season. This new extension doesn't kick in until the 2027 to 28 season, and it runs all the way through 2029 to 30, with reports indicating the deal includes 2 fully guaranteed seasons and a team option on that 3rd year. For those who haven't been tracking Walsh's journey, this is a huge storyline. He was the number 38 overall pick back in the 2023 draft out of Arkansas, just 19 years old at the time. He spent his first couple of seasons bouncing in and out of the rotation, riding what a lot of people are calling a playing time roller coaster. But midway through his 3rd NBA season, something clicked. Walsh broke out. He started showing real two-way upside, the length, the defensive versatility, the flashes of shot-making that made scouts excited about him in the first place. And Walsh himself has been refreshingly honest about what he's working on. He said it himself. He's trying to become a much better offensive player, trying to fit into situations he didn't fit into last year, trying to be the answer in the moments when Boston needed a bucket, and he found himself on the bench instead. That's a mature outlook from a 22-year-old, and it's exactly the kind of self-awareness that gets front offices excited to invest long-term. Now here's where it gets interesting from a big-picture roster construction standpoint. This extension is part of a clear pattern. Ron Harper Jr. signed a 4-year, $13.7 million extension earlier this summer. Neemias Queta got paid. Baylor Shireman is extension eligible next summer. Hugo Gonzalez still has 3 years left on his rookie deal. And notice something about all of these numbers. Boston is being extremely disciplined. None of these young players are getting paid more than about 3% of the salary cap in any given season. That's not an accident. Under the NBA's new, much more punishing collective bargaining agreement, the second apron is basically a hard cap, and the Celtics have made it clear they cannot afford to overpay depth pieces anymore, not after everything that's happened with this roster over the last year. Reaction around the league has been mixed. And that's what makes this fun to talk about. On the CLNS Media Roundtable, Celtics reporter Noah Dalzell gave this deal a perfect 10 out of 10 for Boston, calling it so non-risky with tremendous upside. On the flip side, you've got other analysts raising doubts, pointing out that Boston's roster is already stacked with wings, and asking whether Walsh has really done enough on a crowded depth chart to justify locking in future money. It's a fair question. Boston's wing room right now is genuinely one of the deepest in the league, and it's not obvious where all the minutes come from. But now, let's get to the part of this story that's really got Celtics Twitter buzzing. Bradley Beal. Multiple reports over the last several days have linked Bradley Beal to the Boston Celtics as a potential free agency landing spot, with the Miami Heat also mentioned as a top suitor. Beal reportedly declined his player option with the Clippers, officially making him a free agent. And now, the rumor mill has kicked into overdrive. Let's be real about where the fan base stands on this. Reaction has been all over the map. Some analysts are saying Boston should absolutely explore this. A former All-Star, a proven bucket getter, could slide into a Celtics offense that's going to need secondary scoring after the changes this roster has already been through. Others are pumping the brakes hard, with some outlets flat out saying the Celtics should actually sign this future Hall of Famer instead, and other pieces warning that a Beal pursuit could turn into a massive mistake given his recent injury history and the money question marks that come with any Beal contract in this new, stingier cap environment. There's also a layer of NBA-wide context here worth mentioning. LeBron James just made his own free agency decision, which we are going to get into in detail later in this video, and it's already reshaping how good the Eastern Conference picture looks for everybody, Boston included. So keep that in mind as we talk about roster construction, because the East just got a lot more complicated. For now, the Jordan Walsh extension is done. It's official. And it's another example of this front office trying to build sustainably around its young core. The Beal rumors are just that right now, rumors. But given how aggressive Brad Stevens has been this offseason, don't be shocked if we're talking about this again very soon. Let us know in the comments. Should the Celtics go after Bradley Beal, or is this a swing they should sit out? What should Payton Pritchard's extension look like? All right, moving on to a storyline that's honestly one of the most important financial decisions this front office is going to make all summer. Payton Pritchard's contract extension. Here's the situation. Pritchard becomes eligible for a 3-year, $67 million extension starting October 1st. There's been reporting suggesting the Celtics might be ready to offer that max number immediately, just to get this locked up and off the table. But, and this is a big but, there are real questions about whether Boston should actually do that. Let's talk about why Pritchard deserves to get paid in the first place, because we don't want to lose sight of that. This man has been an absolute engine for the Celtics. He won 6th Man of the Year 2 seasons ago, and honestly, he probably would have been right back in that conversation again this past season if he hadn't been forced into so many starts early on. He's been one of the most reliable bucket getters in the entire regular season, and that production was a massively underrated reason Boston was able to win 56 games. This is a hard worker, a plus locker room guy, a high-level performer. Nobody is questioning his heart or his impact. But here's where the analysis gets complicated. And it comes down to 2 big factors, age and the new CBA. Let's start with the age piece, because the numbers here are sobering. Pritchard's birthday falls in the middle of the season, meaning he turns 29 this season and 30 next season. If Boston signs him to that 3-year extension, it would cover his age 31, 32, and 33 seasons. Now think about the type of player Pritchard is. He's 6'1". He's an undersized guard who thrives on getting into the paint and mixing it up with much bigger defenders. Historically, that archetype, small, physical, attacking guards, tends to age poorly past 30. The explosiveness that makes Pritchard special is exactly the kind of thing that can erode fast once a player crosses that threshold. Then there's the CBA problem. And this is the part that Celtics fans have had to learn the hard way over the last year. Under this new system, every single dollar matters. Teams simply cannot afford to miscalculate on big contracts anymore, because the penalties for going into the second apron are brutal. You lose trade flexibility, you lose access to exceptions, you lose draft pick flexibility. Right now, as things stand, literally no team in the league is projected to spend into the second apron next season. Cap space across the NBA is going to be tight. And that actually works in Boston's favor in a subtle way. If fewer teams have room to offer Pritchard a monster contract in restricted or unrestricted free agency down the road, Boston's leverage in these extension talks is actually stronger than it might look on the surface. There's also a concept the analysts are calling optionality, and this is a phrase Brad Stevens himself has hammered home, notably when explaining the reasoning behind the Jaylen Brown trade. The idea is simple. The more flexible your contracts are, the more moves you can make. If Pritchard signs at the full max extension number, north of $20 million a year, it actually limits Boston's ability to trade him into another team's mid-level exception, which under the new rules can also become a traded player exception. That's a tool this front office clearly wants to preserve. So what's the actual recommendation? The suggestion on the table is that Boston should offer Pritchard a deal that starts closer to the projected mid-level exception number for 2028 to 29, something in the range of 3 years, $16.6 million in year one. That's a much better reflection of realistic open market value for an aging small guard, and there's even a case for adding a 4th year onto the deal as a reward for Pritchard taking that shorter money up front. It's presented as a win-win. Pritchard still walks away with a life-changing contract north of $50 million guaranteed, and Boston protects itself against the very real risk that his production dips as he heads into his 30s, all while preserving that optionality this front office has made its whole identity around this offseason. Bottom line, Pritchard has absolutely earned a big payday. Nobody's arguing otherwise. But after watching how aggressively this front office managed money around the Jaylen Brown trade, don't be surprised if the number Boston puts on the table is a little more team-friendly than the full max. Drop a comment. Do you want Boston to just pay Pritchard the full 3 years, $67 million and lock him up? Or would you rather see them get creative and save the money? LeBron James is going to the Philadelphia 76ers. Okay. Everybody buckle up, because this is the story that's been blowing up every single NBA account over the last 24 hours, and it hits directly home for Celtics fans. LeBron James has made his free agency decision, and it's a shocker. He is signing with the Philadelphia 76ers. LeBron announced it himself, posting that he believes he can help make the Philadelphia 76ers a championship team, saying he's excited to energize a brand new fan base and start this journey one more time. He also took a moment to thank the Lakers, said he'll always love his time in Miami, and made it clear Northeast Ohio will always be home. But make no mistake, LeBron James, at this stage of his historic career, is now a member of the Philadelphia 76ers. Let that sink in for a second, Celtics fans, because here's why this matters so much to us. The Sixers now have Jaylen Brown, Boston's former All-Star who was traded away earlier this year, playing alongside Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Joel Embiid, and now LeBron James. On paper, that's an absolutely loaded starting five. Philadelphia just went from a team that was arguably in the same tier as Boston to a team that's now sitting a full level above, a legitimate title contender overnight. Let's break down the roster reality here. Offensively, this Sixers team is going to be a nightmare to deal with. You've got shot creation and playmaking coming from every position. But it's not all sunshine for Philly. The defensive side of the ball raises real questions. Embiid is a year older and can't defend the way he used to, which honestly still stings Celtics fans a little bit, considering Boston didn't attack him nearly enough in their playoff series. LeBron isn't the lockdown defender he was a decade ago either. Maxey, for all his scoring gifts, is a straight-up target on that end of the floor. That leaves Jaylen Brown as arguably their best individual defender, but even he's had moments of getting caught out of position on the help side throughout his career. But here's the storyline that's honestly more fascinating than the X's and O's: the locker room dynamics. Think about it. Jaylen Brown spent this past season in Boston calling it his favorite year of his career, specifically because he had the opportunity to lead a young group that was exceeding expectations. He was the guy. Now he's walking into a locker room with LeBron James, a player who, historically, tends to dominate whatever locker room he's in, and Joel Embiid, another franchise cornerstone with his own ego and his own way of doing things. So the question becomes, where does Jaylen Brown fit in that hierarchy? Is he the third option? How does Embiid feel about that? Can these three genuinely willing sacrifice minutes, shots, and control for a championship? Or does this turn into a situation where everybody expects everybody else to be the one who steps back? There's also the injury variable hanging over all of this. LeBron is going to need load management, especially on back-to-backs. That's just the reality at this stage of his career. Embiid's availability has been a season-long question mark for years now. If Brown ends up being the healthy, available piece more often than not, and he starts to feel like others are undermining his standing on the team, that's exactly the kind of situation that can create real friction. And here's a detail that should hit different for longtime Celtics fans. Jaylen Brown has actually lived through a locker room implosion before. He was in Boston when things got messy during the Kyrie Irving era. He knows what dysfunction looks like from the inside, and he knows how fast it can sink a talented roster. That experience could genuinely help him navigate whatever comes next in Philadelphia. But it's also worth remembering, Brown spent the better part of a decade in one of the most stable, well-run locker rooms in the entire NBA here in Boston. Any level of chaos in Philadelphia is going to be a real culture shock for him. So where does this leave the Celtics? Let's be honest with each other. This makes Boston's path back to the top of the East significantly harder. The Sixers, on paper, now have arguably the most talented starting five in the conference. Vegas has already reacted too. Philadelphia's NBA Finals odds reportedly skyrocketed the moment this LeBron news broke. Boston already needed a lot of things to break right just to make a deep playoff run next season after everything this roster has been through. And now they've got a brand new, star-studded rival standing directly in their way in the East. This is one of those stories where we genuinely need to see it play out in real games before we crown anybody. Talent on paper is one thing. Chemistry, health, and who actually leads that locker room down the stretch of a long NBA season is a completely different question. And all eyes are going to be on Jaylen Brown to see how he holds it all together in a brand new, high-pressure situation. All right, Celtics family, that is everything for today's video. Let's do a quick recap. Jordan Walsh is officially locked up on a smart, team-friendly extension, and the Bradley Beal rumors are only getting louder as free agency rolls on. Payton Pritchard is staring down a massive extension decision that could shape this roster's flexibility for years. And the biggest story in the entire NBA right now, LeBron James is heading to Philadelphia to join Jaylen Brown, instantly turning the Sixers into a legitimate title threat and Boston's newest headache in the East. I want to hear from you down in the comments. Which one of these three stories has you the most fired up? The Beal rumors, the Pritchard money question, or LeBron landing in Philly? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor and smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss a Celtics Daily Hub upload. We've got fresh content dropping every single day, all off-season long, so there is so much more coming. This has been Celtics Daily Hub. I'll see you in the next one. Let's go Celtics!